All right, welcome back. So in this video, we're just doing a quick tip on coding, and hopefully this helps everybody. So I'm going to use Java as just an example here. And the tip I want to say is when you're writing code, make sure you make it very readable, not just for yourself, but oftentimes if you go into this field as a career and you want to make sure that you structure your code a certain way, make it very visible and easy to read for people and understand what's going on. So Java is a great example of doing something like this. So this is actually a code that I set up that if you look at what's going on, is I created an integer and it's just going to have the value of 0, right? And then if, let's say this was a question, we're going to check to see if that I is 0, then it's going to print correct. If I is 1, then we're going to say not correct, or I could do 2, 3, 4, whatever. But I can mash all this together here, and Java doesn't have a problem with this. It really is only looking for the semicolons to look for the line breaks of your code. And so it's really, really important that you kind of take the time to structure your code. And we can actually run this. This just looks, to me, this looks like kind of a mess of code, and I wouldn't want to try to look through that and figure out what's going on with the code, especially if it's something a little bit more advanced and you just have a paragraph of code rather than line by line kind of thing. So if we run this, it should just print correct. And because I is 0 and it's going to match up, it's going to go ahead and print correct. So let's go ahead and run that. And you can see it does run. It says correct. So what we want to do is we really would like to structure this out a little bit. I'm going to hit enter here and move these things down. And then I'm also going to move these down as well because they kind of fit with these up here. So for me, this works a little bit better. In fact, I like to kind of separate my variables out. I like to add a comment and say, they're not comments, these are variables. And as I create my variables and I list them all at the top here, or if I list them down in my programming later on, I'm going to want to, put a comment in there and say that those are variables. So that really is helpful. Does not show up over here. When I run it, you won't even see the comment. But for the person that's coding, it just helps you kind of understand. Now in this environment I'm using, it doesn't do a very good job with this. It kind of makes it pretty dark. Other environments will make it green, something like that to make it a little bit easier to stand out. But in this environment, it doesn't do that. The other thing, so this is my variables and I can list them all up here, is these are my if statements, right? So I could do another comment here and say, if statements, or these are my conditionals, something like that. I'd probably use if statements. Okay. Or something like along the lines of we're checking to see, what's going on in the code. And then the other thing too, and these are not necessary, but I would use the brackets like this to close this off for yourself. So here's my if, right? And then underneath that if, you have this print line. And obviously with a lot other ifs, you have more things going on. The other thing it does is, you notice, is we now have this. And we can expand that out or shrink it down and say, okay, this is the if, and then all the code within that. So that's really helpful. And I can do that with this if as well. So go ahead and hit that enter there and then close that as well. And so now it allows me with my code to this just looks better. And I probably would even enter another line there, blank line, just so I can see it. And again, when we run it, it doesn't affect it at all. Okay, it still is going to do what we want our program to do. It just makes it much easier to read. And that's really an important thing when you're coding is, so easy when you get into bigger programs and coding projects and you lose track of where you're at. You're trying to tie things together and figure out where things go. Using comments, spacing things out a little bit better, really, truly is helpful. Okay? So I hope that helps you with your coding. And hope that tip helps you, and good luck.